Well, good afternoon, everybody. I just wanted to take a few minutes of your time and talk about the concept of feedback. As you progress throughout your term, your instructors will provide feedback to you to help you as you progress throughout the overall degree program. And the importance of that feedback is something that needs to be recognized. And when we talk about the importance of feedback, there's a couple ways in which we want to focus on that. First, we want to look at where you find that feedback. And secondly, we want to look at how to employ that feedback as you progress throughout not only the course, but as I mentioned, throughout your overall degree program, because we want to keep in mind that feedback itself is something that is provided to ultimately continue to assist you in future assignments as you work throughout your course. So as we begin, we have three objectives in our short time together. First, we're going to identify the purpose of feedback. Secondly, we're going to identify the places to locate feedback. And then thirdly, I also want to touch on how you as the student provide feedback as well, because you do serve a key role in the overall course and the way in which the course moves forward as it relates to interacting with one another and a sharing of ideas, because we have to remember that courses are not only about the instructor, the students play a vital role in that process as well. So we're going to look at that in a very brief manner as it relates to how you provide feedback to ultimately move your course forward and assist your fellow students in the learning process. So as we begin with the basic question of what is feedback, I really found this term in this sentence to really reference what we're looking at. And it states the term feedback is often used to describe all kinds of comments made after the fact, including advice, praise, and evaluation. And I like that statement because it is a very clear, definitive idea of what feedback is. And when we think about feedback, we want to keep in mind that it is ultimately designed to help you improve your work. Feedback is provided to state what you did appropriately, how you met the assignment requirements, strong areas of your work, to highlight those ideas. But it's also designed, and its purpose is to include ways in which improvement is needed. And when we look at those concepts of areas of improvement, what we do want to keep in mind is that feedback on one assignment should be applied to future assignments. As I referenced at the beginning, feedback itself is something in which we do ultimately seek to carry with us as we move on throughout other assignments that might be related or could be areas in which, as we'll see here shortly, maybe it's grammar related areas, for example, that need improvement. You can incorporate that into future coursework as well. So when we look at the idea of instructor feedback, what is it based on? Well, it's going to be based on the rubric. Each course that you have does have a rubric, and that's something that we've referenced before. And the purpose of the rubric is to provide you as the student and the instructor as the same baseline assignment requirement. What do I mean by that? Well, when your instructor is grading your work, they're going to be looking at the rubric. And the nice element of that is the fact that before you submit the assignment, you have the ability to review the rubric. So by looking at that rubric, you are looking at the exact same document that your instructor is going to utilize as they return all of your work, and that means that your feedback will be modeled and based off of that rubric as well, and those assignment requirements. And there's multiple areas in which this occurs. It could be, for example, this is a discussion board rubric, so it could occur through the comprehension, the engagement, or even, as I mentioned, the writing aspect. So all the provided feedback is going to center around how you can improve upon this particular assignment, but also those key areas that were strong, those areas in which you really excelled on and can go ahead and model and replicate in maybe other parts of this particular assignment, or as you move forward into other assignments as well. At the same time, you can see that you do have multiple scoring areas. What do I mean by scoring areas? Well, we have these not evident, needs improvement, proficient, or exemplary. So you're going to be able to see exactly where you fit within the range of the assignment requirements. Again, it's going to come back to the rubric and focusing on what is being asked of you within that particular assignment. Now, there's multiple areas in which feedback can be provided. And as we look at where you can find additional feedback, you could find that feedback within each rubric element. Each one of these areas right in through here can actually be clicked on. It'll then highlight the points that you've earned, and then your instructor can go ahead and provide feedback within those particular areas as well. It could be something related to a very strong aspect, an element that needs improvement with a focus on what is present, and then also why improvement is needed or not evident, and then you would know exactly what you're looking at there as well. So you can find instructor feedback on the rubric. You also can find instructor feedback in this area right down here, and this falls below the rubric. So this is where your instructor would then go ahead and, highlight the assignment requirements, what it was, what you were seeking to accomplish with this particular assignment, some type of summation, and then also go ahead and have those areas that were present and where those areas in which improvement was needed and how you can improve upon those areas. So within these two areas, you have really a breakdown of your grade and also a focus on what you've done and what you need to do moving forward. And again, it's very important to take this feedback into consideration when moving throughout additional coursework. Now, there is a third area in which you can find feedback, and that is going to be within the assignment itself. This is what we refer to as either in-text or in-line feedback. And this really gives the instructor the ability to directly write on your assignment. And this feedback is going to really be beneficial to you because the instructor is not only providing that feedback for you again as you move forward, but they're also providing this feedback as they read through your work. Okay, so this is not a type of feedback that you'd find in a discussion board, but in assignments that are submitted, such as milestones or papers or things like that, you will have this inline feedback. And as you can see from the sample here, there are comments that are provided, and the comments that were provided in the work are in red, and that's what you see right there. But then they also have the ability to highlight key ideas, and that right there is an example. Both of those are examples of comments that were highlighted within the work, and usually when something's highlighted, it could be to reference the fact that it was an assignment requirement or the fact that a comment will also then accompany that highlight, and that would be off over into the margin that you will not see it on the screen here, but it would be in the margin of your paper. But then we also have grammatical errors that can be provided, and addressed within the work, and that's what you see right there. A comment, something was added right into the work. So there's multiple ways in which feedback is provided, and as I referenced, it can be content-based, grammatical, etc. But the key idea of feedback, and what is important to remember as we progress through the term and ultimately going forward, is the fact that you must look at the feedback. It is not enough to only look at the grade. The grade is one small picture of your overall assignment. The feedback is what makes that grade. And that is what will put the grade into perspective and focus for you as you move forward, in the course and also in future assignments as well. Because one thing we want to remember is, as I mentioned, feedback is something that I think if I wanted to give a term to it, I'd probably say scaffold. And when we look at the idea of scaffolding feedback, it's the fact that you will utilize those ideas in future assignments. For example, if there is something, grammatical related to your work, and there was an issue that was noted, you can then go ahead and make sure that that is not an issue that is present in future assignments. You also want to look and see what does directly apply to future assignments. For example, if it's a milestone assignment, you're working towards a final project and the milestones are designed to build on each other. So if there's something that was present within a milestone that was great, your instructor is going to notice that and will also make note of that. For example, I often tell students that a cover page is a key element of all written assignments. So if you put a cover page on milestone 1, it's something that should be present throughout. However, if you didn't include a cover page on milestone 1, and the instructor noted that a cover page is needed on future assignments, that is something that you will want to go ahead and make sure that you apply to future assignments. We can say the same thing about, as I mentioned, grammar, but also Turabian format. And something that we will continue to focus on is Turabian format because it is so important that you have a solid understanding of how to utilize and employ Turabian format in your writing. As you progress throughout the degree program, it will become more intense. So it's very vital and important that you have a solid understanding of that. So if your instructor notes something related to Turabian in an early assignment, by early I'm referencing the term, that is something that you will want to address as you move forward. So definitely take time to review the feedback. It does explain the grade, it puts the grade into perspective, and it helps you see what you can do to ultimately improve your uh, future coursework as you submit additional assignments, because obviously everything is a learning experience and we should take it as such. And that is where our feedback is vital to that learning process. I would also encourage you to make sure that you do contact your instructor if any feedback is unclear. If there's something you don't understand, reach out to your instructor. There's nothing wrong with asking a question. I would encourage you to ask questions, and your instructors would do the same. So please make sure that you do reach out and seek clarification. Seek that guidance as it relates to why a comment was left or why something is not present. Sometimes um, additional clarification is needed, and that question can spark that conversation so that there is really that understanding of what you need to do going forward so that you have that solid understanding of what that assignment was asking and how you can really add that and adopt those ideas as you go forward. An important element to note when we talk about contacting the instructor and also utilizing feedback as we move forward is the fact that instructors do not want to see students make the same mistakes repeatedly. When we provide feedback on your work, we are doing that to help you as you move forward. So by reviewing that feedback, you're taking those ideas, you're taking those suggestions and employing them within your future work so that you can improve upon either your skills or your content or whatever the case may be. So we want to see you improve from our feedback. And by reading the feedback and analyzing it and spending time with it and even asking questions on it, you are really helping yourself as you progress throughout the course and your overall degree program. Now, one other element that I did want to address is your role as the student in providing feedback. You have that opportunity to provide feedback as well. And I think this is something that's important to note because, as I mentioned at the beginning of the recording, is the fact that we as instructors are not the only driver of the course. Courses in the online format do rely around the discussion board. They are something in which we have the ability to all contribute to. And I always tell students the fact that when we talk about the discussion board, that's where the course happens. That's where you're interacting not only with your instructor, you're interacting with fellow classmates, and this is where you're sharing ideas. And those discussion forums allow you as the student to provide feedback because you're providing an analysis of your fellow students' work. You're sharing ideas, you're focusing on what you gathered from the readings for the week and seeing how they relate to the ideas that your fellow students gathered. So the discussion forum is a key element to the overall course, and you play a vital role in that feedback process in the discussion board. So make sure you're taking advantage of those as well. And one thing we do want to remember when we talk about the discussion board is we are working in an online environment, so everything is done in the written word. So we do want to make sure that we remember the importance of what I call netiquette. Everything is taken differently, and when we write something, we're not there to provide that explanation of what we meant. So we want to be very clear and sure within our work and in our writing that we are really taking ideas and presenting them in a very professional manner. And that's very, very important in the discussion board. There is another way that you as a student do provide feedback, and that is called the peer review process. And you'll notice I do have coming soon on there because that is something we're going to address over the next few weeks, and what the peer review process is and how you participate in that process as it relates to your coursework and the role of the historian outside of the academic realm. And so stay tuned for that because we will revisit that. But feedback is very, very vital to your overall coursework and I'll say your overall success within your classes. So make sure you're incorporating your instructor feedback that they're providing to you, and also that you are an active participant in providing that feedback to your classmates as well. If you have any questions, as I mentioned, please do not hesitate to contact your instructor. They're more than happy to assist. And also do stop by the learning community and participate in a discussion thread or even start a discussion thread. Have a great day. Thank you.